Today I'm going to show you through the automatic bank reconciliation module, which is available from Perfect Programming and available for purchase on the PPAX web store. I'm going to start by talking about how an end user would use the module to import statements and actually do the bank reconciliation. And then I'll talk a little bit about how we set up that import and how a system administrator can do that rather than having to need a developer to write that format. Okay, so let's get started. First thing that we need to do as a user is import statements from the bank. So we can do that from here, from periodic. There's a new option available called import bank statements. And so here I can see all of the statements that have already been imported. So there's one here at the moment. It's already been reconciled, so I can't delete that or do anything because that's already been used in the bank reconciliation. And down here there's only one transaction on that particular statement. So if I'm ready to import a new one, I can just click on the button up here, Import Bank Statement. And here I can just go ahead and select which bank account it is that I'm importing into and select where that statement is. You can also set this up as a batch job, so if you know that you'll be pulling your bank statement down from the bank and putting it in a particular folder every day at 5 o'clock or something like that, you can go ahead and set this up to automatically import from that file location for you so that nobody actually has to do any importing, and it'll just happen as part of that batch process. Okay, so I'm going to import this statement now. So there we go, we can see it there, and we've got all of our transactions down here. Now I can view this information, but I can't change any of these transactions because of course this is what the bank says that I have, and so I need to reconcile my account to this. All I can do is I can delete this and re-import if there's something wrong with it, but I can't make any changes to the imported statement. And once it's reconciled, that's it, it's set in stone there. Okay, so now to actually do the bank reconciliation, I go into my bank accounts. I'll find my bank account, and just like you would normally do with AX, I go to my account reconciliation. Now the only difference here is rather than having to key in this information from a statement, I can now select from those imported statements. So there's the one that I just imported. You can also go to the imported bank statement screen from here. So if the same person is doing the reconciliation is also importing, I can just do it on the fly here as well. I don't need to go to that separate area. Okay, but I've got my statement there, so I'm ready to now go ahead and reconcile that. So I go into transactions. And this is the normal bank rec screen that you get with AX, and so normally you would be going along and marking these off as you clear them against your paper statement sitting next to you. Once you have this installed, that you can't actually clear that manually. You now need to go through the matching screen, which is where you'll match those two transactions. So if I click on here, and what you'll see on this screen is it's kind of split in half here. So this side is my bank statement transactions. So this is what I've imported from the bank file. And over here on the right is what I've posted in AX. So these are all of my transactions that are being posted on that bank account in AX. Of course, the purpose of the bank reconciliation now is to say, right, this deposit here on the 28th of November, that appears on my statement, yes, that was posted here in AX, and here's the transaction in AX. And I'll go ahead and match those. And what you'll see now is that they appear in the bottom section. So I can see there's those two transactions. And so I no longer need to deal with those. Similarly, here's a check, so I can go ahead and select. There's check number 2 for $500. And yes, here it is in AX. It was posted for $500, check number 1002, and go ahead and match that transaction, and so on. So I can manually go ahead and continue that process and match those transactions. But of course, it would be much better if AX could do some of that work for me. So this time I'm going to use the auto match feature. First of all, I'm going to come down here where I can see all of these matched transactions, and I can just say, unmatch everything that I've done. I want to start again. So unmatch all, we'll put everything back up there in the unmatched area. Right, so if I go to my auto match button, and I've got two options here, so I can do a clear and match, which would basically unmatch everything as it's going to redo this. or I'm going to use the match remainder, which I'll actually use next. So let's start with clear and match. I want to just start again. I want to match first of all based on the check number. So if the check number's the same and the amount's the same, then it's going to go ahead and automatically clear those. So I'll hit OK. And there we go, we can see it's pulled up those 3 transactions, which is great. Now I'm going to rerun auto match, and this time I want to check for the date. So if it's got the same amount, it's always got to have the same amount to match. If it's got the same amount and it's posted on the same day, I'd like to go ahead and match that. I want to keep what I've already matched it with those check numbers and just match whatever's remaining. So with whatever's left, it's going to look for anything on the same date, the same amount, and automatically match that. So there we go, we can see it's matched out a couple of my deposits there, which is great. Then I can run that again and say, this time, just look for things that are the same amount. It doesn't matter if they're a different date, so let's go ahead and try and match everything that's left. So it's pulled out one more transaction down there, that $900. So, first of all down here, I can also do a match of multiple transactions. So I can see here's this deposit for 3250, and I've got 2 deposits there. Perhaps I didn't use the standard deposit slip functionality, which would have grouped those for me when posting the transaction. Perhaps I didn't do that, so I need to manually say, yep, these 2 add up to that 3250. So I'd like to match those 3 transactions together. And the only thing I'm left with here is this $10 fee, which I'll deal with in a moment. So I've got a little note box down here where I can say in the AX bank account, and that's just my little note there against that transaction to remind myself that I need to actually post something for that. So you can also use this as a bit of a worksheet as you're going through. Perhaps there's something you're not sure about, you need to check with someone. You can write yourself a little note there and remember what you need to do with that. But I see here there's also another transaction for 900, and if I look down here, there was that transaction that was posted. So if I just use my standard functionality, my search, filter and grid I've got here, so I want to see, right, there's a transaction there that went through for $900, and perhaps I want to see what that was actually matched to. So AX has automatically matched that. So if I say filter over here, it shows me, okay, there's that transaction that was matched against that $900 wire. But I can also see that the date is quite different. So this was posted in AX in October, and it's gone and reconciled against a transaction in November on the bank account. And that was because when I did that final auto match where I said ignore the date if it's the same amount match, it just matched on a first in, first out type basis. So I can see there's also a transaction up here. I'm not really sure which one it should have matched to, so I want to do some investigation on this. So if I click on the transaction here, as this was posted in AX, I can go ahead and see the voucher. So there's the voucher. And then I can go ahead and look at the transaction origin, and that will tell me which customer this was received for. And so here I can see, that transaction was for Stone University, so that was probably meant to be posted with that wire deposit, but let's just go have a look at this one down here. So the original 900 in October, have a look at the voucher, have a look at the origin, and I can see, right, that was actually for a different customer, Pelican Wholesale. So I probably need to go follow up on that. That hasn't come through on the statement. But anyway, that doesn't affect my bank reconciliation for now. What I do need to do though is unmatch that transaction, and that will unmatch everything that's attached to that one. So if it was, something with 3 or 4 transactions like that deposit, it would unmatch all of those together. In this case it's just a one-to-one, so I'll just say unmatch, and there we go, it appears in the top, which is great. So I'm going to select that one, and I'll select this one here, which is the correct one, so I'll go ahead and match those. Right, so all I've got left now is this $10 fee. I could go and post that as a journal, or I can still use the standard functionality that's available in AX where I can add it to my BankRec screen. So if I go ahead and close out of here and go back to my account reconciliation transactions, I'll just add a new line here and select my bank fees. That's got the ledger account attached to that. And if I go ahead and put in the date was 29th of November and it was $10. Okay, so that's all standard functionality there, adding that transaction. That will get posted when I'm able to reconcile the account. But for now I need to go ahead and match that. So if I go back into my matching and I'll run auto match once more, match what's left. You can see there's that $10 transaction on my account side, but I'll just click OK for my auto match and that's pulled that through. So now I have nothing here in this unmatched screen. That means that I can go ahead and reconcile that account. I've matched all of the transactions that came in on that statement, and these are just my outstanding checks and deposits on that account. Okay, so now I can go ahead and click the reconcile account button because my unreconciled amount is 0 and complete the reconciliation. From there, everything is standard. You can see here it's using the same functionality where you would normally check these buttons. So that matching process is just checking those buttons for you based on your matching, and we use the standard functionality to reconcile the account and post that fee transaction. So nothing there has been changed. So you can be quite confident that your reconciliation will still work as expected. Okay, so that's the user using the module to reconcile the account and import statements. Let's now talk a little bit about how you set up that import, because this is also quite important. Typically you'd have to use a programmer to write that sort of format for you. What we've done is we've taken a template approach which allows somebody who, more of a system administrator who understands some table formats can set that up for you without the need for a developer. So if we come in here to my templates, this is where we set up what that file format looks like and where it needs to go. So you can have as many of these as you need to, typically one for each bank that you deal with. So I've got one here for the Bank of America. This is a comma separated file and I've specified that up here. You can also have fixed length files. You just decide what your record limiters are or your field lengths. If you have a header section, you'll just check this box and then you can put in your header line for fields, and then you've got your detail lines here, which is all the details of your form. So if we first of all have a look at the file that I've been importing, I've just set up a simple Excel form with some fields on there. So here we go, we've got our bank statements here. So if we have a look at this bank statement for November, just to show you what I've been importing in this example that I've been doing. A little bit slow here on opening Excel. So this just has a simple header line with some information about the bank reconciliation, the bank account, and the statement number and the statement date, and then it has a number of lines for each of those transactions that went through. Okay, so our first line here has bank statement number, the date, the balance, and you'll see that has no decimals, so we need to cater for that in our import, and a description. And then in terms of the lines, so for each transaction we have the date, a description, the amount, again with no decimals, and a check number. So it's quite a simple file that we've received from the bank, and we just need to map those fields into transactions in AX, or into fields in AX. So what we've done here is we've got our first line, our first position, the first field in the file is a string, and that should be imported into the statement number. And we do that over here, so you can see this is mapped to the bank statement table into the statement number field. Similarly, here's the date. The date format is month, day, year, and we're importing that into the bank statement table into the field called statement date. So if I just click on this, you can see these are the fields that are available on that bank statement header file. So we've got a number of things there like your date, your balance, description, currency, etc. And so you'll just be matching those and setting that up. Here we've got our ending balance, which is a real, which means it's got decimals. And here, because that file, the field in our file didn't have decimals, we're just going to multiply that by 0.01 to get the correct balance and import that into the ending balance field. Similarly on my details, same sort of thing, I'm importing the date, but this time into the bank statement transactions table, and I've got a field called transaction date. I've got my description going into a field called text, my amount going into my amount MST or amount currency field, and a check number going into my check num. Again, you've got a whole range of different fields there that you can import into depending on what's on your bank statement. So quite a simple process to go ahead and set up those files. As I said, you really don't need a developer to do that, it's more of a system administrator tool. So as long as you understand what fields and tables are, then you can just go ahead and map that file and have a bit of an understanding of comma separated files. If you are using fixed length, then you can go ahead, rather than putting in the position, you would be saying the first 10 characters is the date, the next 20 characters is the description, etc. to define your fields. Okay, that's all there is to it really. That's the automatic bank reconciliation module, which is available from Perfect Programming. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us at inquiries@perfectprogramming.com.